What is underneath my jacket? Hello EUC community. Today's the day we unveil the wheel that I purchased that's going to not replace this baby. She'll always have a place in my heart as my first wheel that I learned how to ride a EUC on. But this Kingsong 14M is going to stay with me. I'm going to use it for short errands maybe, and to just have fun with learning more tricks and things. So I'm not getting rid of Kingsong 14M, but she's going to have a bigger brother or sister, and actually it's right over here underneath this jacket, because I am not going to unveil it that quickly. Stay with me and I'm going to tell you how and why I came up with the decision to get the one that I got. So unless you've seen comments on a couple of my other videos, you may already know. But this was my journey in purchasing my second EUC. So my initial training phase on the Kingsong 14M quickly was coming to an end. After about 8 or 9 rides, I was feeling the need to be able to go faster than 8 or 9 miles an hour without getting beeped at. Not beeped at by people, beeped at by my Kingsong 14M, because it was maxing out, getting close to its 12 mile per hour supposedly top speed. So I wanted more speed and more range than my first wheel could provide. So I did a lot of extensive research. Mostly it involves watching YouTube videos on others' recommendations and how to go about deciding which EUC is right for you. Learned a lot on those videos and researching on the regular internet and the EUC websites for all of the shops that sell the EUCs. So did all of that. There was so much information out there. I feel like sometimes you could get paralysis by analysis, and at some point you just have to pull the trigger, and hopefully you can jump on a unit or two before you do that. If you're in an area with a strong EUC community, of course, that might be one way to do it, just with other enthusiasts. But I had the luxury of being able to visit 2 EUC stores and get on a couple of units, so I was able to firsthand feel how they are before buying them. Even though it's just maybe along a rail in a store, at least being on them and feeling the weight is better than just going off the internet. And also I had to come up with what type of riding I feel like I want to do, which also could change, by the way. But I feel like I mostly want to ride on the streets and paved trails around Henderson and Las Vegas, where I live in Henderson, Nevada. I don't feel like I need crazy speed or torque, but if they come with the unit that I do get, that's okay. It's like they say, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So that was something that speed and torque, I just needed enough speed, like 30, I thought, or so, 30 miles per hour or 40 at the top. But if it was more than that, that would be okay. Price I didn't really factor in. I feel like I could spend what I needed to on whatever unit I felt was best for me. But if it come down to 2 units that were close in features, but one was more expensive, of course I'd go with the less expensive. I didn't want to exceed or even approach 100 pounds. I feel like I'm only like 145 pounds, and I've had over 800 pound motorcycles before, and that's great. I don't mind it, because I built up to that. My first motorcycle was a 550 Kawasaki KZ LTD 550, and I grew from that. And so just like the wheels, my first wheel Kingsong 14M, I'm not going to go straight up to the 118 pound mega beast of a wheel. So but in the future, I'm not saying that I'll never have one, but right now I'm growing. So wanted to stay a lot less than 100 pounds if possible. And after all the research, I finally narrowed my choices down to about 10 units. I'm going to try to list them, so hopefully I'll be able to do that in editing. After all the research, I also decided with that 100 pound threshold that I didn't want to approach. that made me say goodbye to the V13, the EX30, the Monster Pro, the Veteran Sherman. And I was sad to not be considering the Monster Pro, because in my thinking about what names I would have, if I had the Monster Pro, I had a name already picked out for it. It was going to be Bagode Lugosi. So that would have been a good one, I think. But anyhow, that maybe in a later date. That left about 7 other units in the running still, or wherever they are. So I was still considering the InMotion, the V11Y, the V14, V13, V12, V11, the Bagode Master, and the Kingsong S22 Pro. And then the next thing was about the suspension, and some people say, well, if you ride a wheel without suspension, it's like riding a stick shift car, and it's good to have that knowledge and get the feedback from the road or whatever. And then you see other videos of people like hitting potholes with non-suspension wheels and getting tossed off their unit. And people say suspension is the future. Others say, well, with suspension, you've got more moving parts, more expensive, and more maintenance. But I decided let's go with the second unit with suspension. So goodbye to the V12 models, which, man, I was this close. I was thinking of V12 high torque might be the answer, or the high speed even, but I thought I was going to go with one of those for about a week. I was really leaning that direction. I thought about the size of the tires, and in general, I believe bigger would be better for the majority of my riding. So I took off the 16-inch tire models. I was looking for a good range also, and so I got down to Kingsong S22 Pro and the Bagode Master as my choices. All right, ready? Drum roll, and I got the Bagode Master. There it is. So we've been on a couple rides already. I know it's going to take a little more learning to know how to handle the Bagode Master coming from the Kingsong 14M, but I was able to ride my first day. I've been on 3 decent rides so far with the Bagode Master, and no crashes, just a lot of not out of control, well, kind of out of control stops on the Bagode Master. And starting out, it's kind of like jumping on a freight train, like a slow-moving freight train that gets started, but then you've got all that power and torque once you get rolling. But that initial step up to the higher pedal height is a little intimidating at first. And then I was on a trail with steep drop-offs, and that was like, I'm not quite as in control as I would like to be with this unit. So after that ride, I spent a lot of time in a parking lot and getting better at my turning radius with the Master. So the end decision between the two, the Kingsong S22 Pro and the Bagode Master, was, first of all, this one does have the faster top end for the future, and it has a further range, and the price was better too. And like a commenter had mentioned, maybe the Black Friday deals out there might be a good time to buy. And actually, I walked into a store and found this one for just over $2,000 and thought it was a great deal. So decided to pull the trigger and get one. So I'm glad I did. Now I'm learning on this one. And then things I didn't consider was like to be afraid of was and this is a version 3, the pedal heights, the looks. I don't need anything flashy or a lot of lights, bells, whistles, music, Bluetooth speakers, things like that. So this Bagode Master is simple. It doesn't have the speakers. It doesn't have fancy lights and